This is Pastor Ken Smith, and you're listening to Transforming Lives. In Ephesians chapter 4, verse 3, the Bible states, "Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace." Now, if you're like me, you probably have seen the movie The Wizard of Oz. And you probably remember the famous line where Dorothy and her trio of pals sought the all-knowing, all-powerful wizard. Dorothy wanted to go home. The Tin Man, he wanted a heart. The Cowardly Lion, he wanted bravery. And the Scarecrow, he wanted a brain. Now, after an adventure, they arrive to meet the wizard, and they find that the wizard is a fake, a phony, a fraud. He is just a man. The sad line that we remember from the wizard when he says this, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain." Dorothy's disappointment in the man behind the curtain is something felt by many in the church today when they get involved in their church activities. We often think that people in the church are perfect, that everyone gets along, and there is never disagreement amongst the members of a church. It doesn't take very long, though, to discover that others in the church are hurting, and they have flaws, and they sometimes do not act like the Christ they profess. The one thing that some might notice is if they look behind the curtain of a church is the lack of unity. Now, the word unity refers to two or more people bound together in a common way. As fellow members of the body of Christ, we are to foster such unity. Edmund Burke proclaimed the following, "Whatever disunites man from God also disunites man from man." Now, often we find our own relationship with God will reflect our relationship with others. When we have unconfessed sin in our lives, it will be exposed in our lack of unity in the body of Christ. We cannot succeed as Christians or even as a local congregation without maintaining the spirit of love and unity. Now, of all the historical failures of the Christian church, disunity is the most prevalent. Some 2,000 years after Jesus walked the earth, the Christian church is far more fragmented than ever before. Now, I don't mean it's Baptist versus Methodist versus the Episcopalians, but I'm talking about divisions also that multiply within denominations and within individual congregations. Clearly, this apostolic call for unity is as yet an unrealized dream, primarily because we have failed to comply with the instructions of the Apostle Paul, or even the words of Jesus Christ in the Gospel of John, chapter 17. We tend to reject the possibility of harmony because of our inability to control our divisiveness and also our pride. Paul tells us that we must maintain unity by remembering that there is but one body, one Spirit, one hope, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, and one God of all. Now, the only way all of it works together is by God's grace. Grace is a wonderful gift that we don't deserve, that enables us to forgive others as we ourselves have been forgiven. Now, I imagine that every few people leave the church or reject Christianity because of the negative assessment of our beliefs. Almost invariably, people turn against Christianity after seeing other Christians who fail to personify the unity, love, and forgiveness demonstrated in Jesus Christ. The only way to overcome this natural inclination towards divisiveness is by relying moment by moment on God's wonderful grace. Only then can we experience true Christianity and unity on this side of eternity. Now, I encourage you this week to memorize the passage from Psalm 133, verse 1. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. Look for ways this week to show the love of Christ with others in your church, in your community, and in your family. Never forget, people are always looking behind the curtain to see the real you. However, even if no one ever does discover who you really are, God already knows. Strive to live in the unity that God offers to all His followers. This is Pastor Ken Smith thanking you once again for listening to Transforming Lives.